All right, folks, it's Tuesday the 22nd of July, and if you're a Celtic fan like me, you're probably starting to feel that familiar twitch in the back of your mind. You know the one. That little voice asking, why's it gone so quiet? And you'd be spot on to ask, because the last week or so has felt like someone hit the mute button on our transfer activity. Sure, we had the signing of Yamada over the weekend, but apart from that, it's been more whispers than waves. Now that might just be a sign that club's keeping things under wraps, doing the business in silence, but let's not kid ourselves. This is Celtic. And if there's one thing we know about this club during the transfer window, it's that a bit of anxiety tends to creep in when the deals aren't rolling out. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of what still needs to be done, let's not pretend there hasn't been some noise. Just yesterday, we saw a headline floating around from the Daily Record about a supposed twist in the MUNTEANU deal with claims of a £15.5 million bid. Getting tangled up in some backroom resistance. Now I'm not one to live and die by what's written in those clickbait headlines. You know the type, right? The ones that feel like someone just threw a bunch of dramatic words into a blender and served up the chaos. Still, it gets folk talking. And while I hope this channel never ends up in that same sensationalist territory, it's hard to ignore that these stories, true or not, do tap into real concerns that the support has about the direction of our transfer strategy. So let's zoom in and talk about where things actually stand right now with the squad. Brendan Rodgers himself said after the weekend's match that we've still got a lot of work to do before the window closes. That tells you all you need to know. He knows this squad isn't quite there yet, and neither do we. Let's go position by position, not in a list, but just walking through the pitch in your head. Between the sticks, I'm fairly content. Kasper Schmeichel's coming with pedigree, experience, and the kind of presence you need in big games. He's the kind of keeper who brings a calmness to the backline, and for now he's clearly number one. Behind him, you've got young Josip Sasalo waiting in the wings. Everything we're hearing from inside the club suggests he's highly rated and could be a real prospect for the future. Early signs are promising, and if he gets the nod in domestic cup games, that could be the perfect way to ease him in. So goalkeeper, we're sorted, no panic there. Right back's looking strong. 2. Alistair Johnston is just a brilliant player. Solid, committed, rarely puts a foot wrong. And Tony Ralston, look, there's always debate about him. Some fans think he's not quite up to the level we need as backup, but honestly, he's looked decent. In preseason, he's the type who might not grab headlines, but he'll give you everything. And sometimes that's what you need from your squad players. Someone who understands the club, works hard, and won't let you down when called upon. So again, no major concerns at right back. Now left back is where things get interesting. The return of Kieran Tierney is obviously massive. We all know what he can bring. Pace, energy, leadership, and that sheer passion for the badge. The question is who backs him up. Hayato Enamura was brought in, and initially many assumed he'd be used as a left-sided center half, which is where he played most of his football in Japan. But so far, he's been deployed exclusively as a left back in preseason. That might just be a stopgap solution, a case of needing someone to fill in during the friendlies. But it could also be an indication that Rodgers sees him as a viable option for that position, and to be fair to the lad, he's done well. It's early days. No need to go overboard, but he looks composed, solid defensively, and decent going forward. The real test will come when we're playing high-pressure games in Scotland or Europe. But as things stand, I'm okay with giving him a run and seeing how he develops. Now center back. Here's where I start to sweat a bit, because let's be honest, we're light, and it's not just about numbers, it's about quality. Cameron Carter-Vickers is a rock. One of the best we've seen in that position since Virgil van Dijk, and that's saying something. Rarely makes a mistake, reads the game superbly, and commands that defense, but he needs a partner. We've been saying this for what feels like forever, ever since Carl Starfelt left, really. The club has to get this one right. We've had to. Many misses in this area. Center backs who come and look shaky or don't fit Rodgers' system. Names like Nawrocki or Lagerbielke, players who haven't quite made the cut. We can't afford to gamble again. We need a center back who's a sure starter. Someone with real presence who complements CCV and gives us that defensive spine we've been lacking, because think about it. If you line up Schmeichel and goal, Johnston on the right, Tierney on the left, and CCV alongside a proper center half, you're talking about a Champions League level back four. That's the kind of foundation that lets you go into big games with confidence. You've got players like Scales and Trusty who can do a job, and young Dane Murray, who's showing promise, but none of them should be the main man next to CCV. We need that commanding presence, and it has to be someone RODGERS trusts from day one. Even if they have a wobbly start, they've got to play. Midfield's a different story. There we're stacked. Callum McGregor continues to be the heartbeat of this team, and Rio had it. If we can keep him, adds real class and creativity. Benjamin Negrin, although still new, already looks like he could be a cracking signing. Composed, intelligent with a bit of bite. And then you've got the likes of Paulo Bernardo, Matt O'Reilly, Odin Diogo, Holm, and Luka McGregor. All players who've had flashes of quality. What we need now is for one or two of them to push on. Bernardo in particular has the pedigree. He's the captain of the Portugal under-21s and should be looking to take that next step. Holm and McGregor are exciting, no doubt, and it's a strong midfield overall. So unless someone leaves, I'm not crying out for additions there. But when you move into the attacking third, that's where the alarm bells start ringing again. Jota's technically back, but we can't count on him. Maybe, just maybe, we get something out of him toward the tail end of the season. But for the majority of the campaign, we're without his magic. That means we need at least one, if not two, new wingers. On the right, we desperately need a starter. Someone who can hit the ground running. A proper replacement for Lila Bada, who gave us pace and goals, but is no longer in the picture. On the left, maybe we can get by with a loan, especially if it's someone with an option to buy. The idea being, they cover for now and Jota takes back his place next season, assuming he finds his feet again. James, Forrest Young, and Negrin can all rotate in the wide positions. Sure, but none of them scream starter in a Champions League game. We need flair. We need end product. We need someone who can unlock a defense when the game's tight. That's the kind of winger Celtic fans expect, and rightly so. Then we get to the strikers. And this is where it all feels a bit muddled. We've got four names, but none of them scream out as the guy. Shen Yamada could be a sensation. Could be the next Kyogo, or he could be something totally different. A player who links play more than finishes it off. We won't know until we see him in action. Johnny Kenny is getting a lot of buzz right now, and I'm not against the idea of him starting the first game of the season. He's got hunger and looks sharp. But whether he's the answer long-term remains to be seen. Adam Ida, meanwhile, has goals in him, but I don't think he's the man to lead the line every week. And then there's young Callum Osman, who might need a loan. It's just not realistic to carry for strikers when only one or two are going to see meaningful minutes. Better to get Osman playing regular football somewhere else and revisit things next year. So when you step back and look at the big picture, the needs are clear. We're still lacking a starting center back, a proper right winger, maybe a left winger on loan, and definitely a top striker who can lead the line with authority. You get all that and suddenly the squad looks balanced, dangerous, and ready for a serious run both domestically and in Europe. Miss even one of those pieces and we're asking for trouble. The kind of trouble that doesn't show up in July but creeps up on you in November, when the injuries pile up and the goals dry up. And let's not forget, the Champions League PLAYOFF round is approaching fast. We've got until Thursday the 14th of August to submit our squad for that tie. Though there is a little wiggle room to register to new players up until the night before the first leg. That means we've got just under a month to make serious moves. Time is ticking, and as we know all too well, Celtic can be slow off the mark. Now, with all that in mind, it's no wonder the support's getting a bit jittery. Every passing day without movement just adds to the tension. The Champions League playoff isn't just another qualifier, it's massive. Financially, reputationally, and in terms of keeping our best players and attracting quality. You need to be showing ambition, and that means getting the business done, not dithering about while other clubs move ahead. There's a growing frustration, a sense that Celtic tend to make transfer windows far more complicated than they need to be, like we enjoy the drama, like we're addicted to the saga. Every summer it feels like we're watching the same film on repeat, dragging out negotiations, missing out on targets, or worse, landing them too late. For the big games, there's also this lingering feeling, and I know plenty of fans share it, that when Celtic do pull the trigger, it's often not on the kind of player we were hoping for. You wait weeks, even months, and then the signing arrives and it's another project, another maybe, another could be, and that's fine now. And then we all love seeing a rough gem come good, but you can't build your core like that. You can't head into a Champions League playoff or a must-win away match in Europe with a bunch of lads who still need to adjust to the tempo, the pressure, the weight of the shirt. You need ready-made quality in key areas, and for the money we've brought in over the past couple of years, Champions League money, player sales, commercial growth, there's no excuse for not doing that. Take Luis Palma, for example. His move to Lech Poznań has now been confirmed, a one-year loan deal with an option to buy. He flew straight from Honduras to Poland after the Gold Cup. And by the looks of it, he might not even return to Glasgow before settling in at his new club. Maybe he'll send someone to pack up his flat. Who knows? It's one of those exits that feels like it was in the air for a while, but still leaves you wondering what could have been. Palma showed flashes, scored some cracking goals, but never quite hit consistency. Still letting him go leaves another hole out wide, and again it's a position we've yet to reinforce. Then there's Jude Bonner, quietly moved on loan to Ayr United. No big announcement, but he's already made his mark with a brilliant goal. Cut inside, curled it into the top bin with his right. Lovely. He even gave an interview afterward, mentioning that Brendan Rodgers and Scott Brown had chatted about his development before preseason. There's clearly a plan for him, and the loan seems to be part of that. Plus, we can recall him if needed, which gives the club a bit of flexibility. Compare that with Collier, who's now being linked with a loan move to Partick Thistle. That one would be a season-long loan, no instant recall option, because Ayr United already have the formal partnership agreement with Celtic. It's a different kind of move, one where the player has to really knuckle down and prove he can cut it in a senior environment, and fair play. Kyle's looked decent in glimpses during preseason. Left-footed, composed, you can see why there's excitement. But again, it all comes back to that wider point. Are we building something for the now, or are we just setting pieces in place for 2 years from now? Because the Champions League doesn't wait. The Scottish Premiership doesn't wait, and if we stumble out of the blocks, that's when the pressure mounts. And while all this is going on, there's still uncertainty around targets we've been linked with for ages. Michelangelo Belikwis's name is back in the papers, with his agent saying he's open to joining Celtic, but that there haven't been any formal discussions. Now come on, how long has this name been floating around? Antwerp apparently need the money. He's got a year left on his deal. He's interested in the move. All the pieces are there. So what's the hold-up? If Celtic truly wanted him, why hasn't it happened? It feels like one of those sagas that drags on until we eventually pivot to someone else entirely. Maybe the club's got other irons in the fire. Maybe they think there's better value elsewhere, but from the outside looking in, it just feels sluggish. Like we're hesitating when we should be acting. And then there's the Champions League path itself. Qualifying has already begun. Round 2 kicks off tonight with loads of ties getting underway. Celtic, of course, don't enter until the playoff round, but the draw's just around the corner. August 4th to be exact. That's 2 weeks away. And once that tie is known, the countdown is on. Submit the squad by the 14th. 2 extra players can be registered until the night before the first leg, which gives you a slight buffer, but not much. Every day counts. You want your signings in the door, training with the squad, building chemistry and understanding RODGERS' system. You don't want to be rushing through paperwork hours before kickoff. The potential opponents aren't exactly pushovers either. We're talking about teams like Slovan Bratislava, Dinamo Tbilisi, Karabakh, and even Basel or Sturm Graz, all capable of springing a surprise if we're not sharp. UEFA's seeding system means we won't face the likes of Copenhagen or Red Star Belgrade, assuming they make it through. But even so, the margin for error is slim, and with how competitive those playoff rounds can be, it's absolutely vital that Celtic arrive at that tie with a squad that's not just complete but confident. No room for rusty debuts or fitness issues, no excuses, and this is where it gets tricky, because you start to feel like we're caught in this strange limbo between the promise of what could be and the reality of what we've got. On paper, the spine is decent. Schmeichel, Johnston, CCV, McGregor had it. That's a solid core, but it only takes one or two key areas being left unaddressed to tip the balance. No starting striker, goals dry up. No winger with cutting-edge, stagnant wide play. No commanding center-back, defensive frailty under pressure. These aren't hypotheticals. We've seen this film before. And I think that's why fans are already a bit uneasy, even though the window still has time left, because we've lived through summers where we didn't act decisively, where we waited, and by the time we made the moves, it was too late to integrate players properly. And in this modern game with so much at stake, financially, tactically, emotionally, that's a risk we can't afford to keep taking. It's not just about winning the Scottish Premiership, it's about progress, real progress in Europe, in how we're viewed as a club, and how players view us as a destination. That comes from ambition. And ambition is shown in the transfer market, not just in who you buy, but how and when you buy them. Right now, we need more than potential. We need punch. We need presence. We need players who walk through the door and immediately raise the standard. Rodgers has said he's got work to do. We've seen glimpses in preseason of what the system could look like, but if the reinforcements don't come, it'll all be theory, no execution. This window will define the season, maybe even the next 2 or 3. Get it right and Celtic are positioned to push forward again in Scotland and beyond. Get it wrong or half right and we'll be back in the same cycle come January, scrambling, chasing, wondering why we didn't act sooner, and look, I get it. Transfers aren't always straightforward. Negotiations take time, agents get involved, clubs play hardball, but sometimes you've got to make a statement. You've got to show everyone, fans, rivals, and potential signings, that Celtic mean business. That we're not just ticking boxes, that we're aiming higher. So now the spotlight's on the board, on the recruitment team, and on the decisions that will shape our fate in the coming months. No more stalling, no more hesitating, it's time to move. Because come mid-August, excuses won't win you football matches. Goals, grit, and game changers will. And the clock's ticking. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a stirring in the East End of Glasgow, and it's not just the buzz of preseason optimism. Word drifting in from Romania suggests that young forward MUNTEANU may be packing his bags for Parkhead. Nothing confirmed, nothing concrete. But those in the know are beginning to whisper that Celtic might just be on the verge of pulling off a smart bit of summer business. MUNTEANU. A 21-year-old striker from the ranks of Viatorul and more recently Fiorentina, albeit on loan back to Feral Constanța, has been quietly impressing scouts with his sharp instincts in front of goal and that uncanny ability to find pockets of space in the tightest defenses. Tall, technical, and with a striker's poise. He's a player that fits the mold of Celtic's modern attacking blueprint, youthful, hungry, and with bags of potential resale value. Sources close to the player suggest there's been contact. Some say his agents were spotted in Glasgow last week. Others claim a medical may already be penciled in. Could it all be smoke and mirrors? Perhaps. But the name MUNTEANU keeps surfacing in conversations around Lennox Town. And when there's smoke at Celtic Park, there's often a fire not far behind. The Hoops have made no secret of their desire to bolster their forward options, especially with ongoing uncertainty around a few of the squad's attacking names. MUNTEANU, who's got youth international caps for Romania and was key in Ferrol's title-winning run in Liga I, could provide that spark up front. Not to mention a fresh option should European competition beckon deeper into the season. Manager Brendan Rodgers has played it coy, offering the usual "we're always looking at options" line when pressed about new rivals. But even the gaffer's trademark grin couldn't hide a flicker of something. When asked specifically about Eastern European talent, for now, it's just chatter, a name on a list. But don't be surprised if MUNTEANU's name ends up printed on the back of a green and white shirt before the window slams shut. Watch this space. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.